This is strange not seeing everyone, but good morning. My name is Jens. I'm the co-founder of Released, and we help teams create release notes from their Jira tickets. It's fairly straightforward. I'm super excited to be here today. Originally, I thought I wouldn't be able to make it. Actually thought I would be on holidays, but it turns out I'm only fly out in the next 3 hours. So it wasn't a problem at all to jump on a call at 5 o'clock in the morning now and talk to you guys. So that's super exciting and super glad we could make that work. Now back to release notes. Like why do we even care about release notes? Give me a second. So the big problem with release notes that we discovered was that writing release notes sucks, and it sucks for a number of reasons. Number one, gathering changes is quite hard. You have to talk to the product managers, the engineering teams, figuring out what actually has been released or deployed already, what of those changes is actually noteworthy, and it's just a time-consuming process that goes back and forth. The second one is writing release notes is pretty hard. So if you're lucky, you have a tech writer on the team that has a natural talent for writing in general, but oftentimes, I think we did a survey recently where we found that more than 50% of the release notes are actually written by product managers. And some of them write well, like myself, I probably struggle a little bit more writing from scratch something. And then lastly, consistency. It's really hard to do this every week and get out there and write about something new, leave alone the deployment piece, but just writing consistent and good release notes is really hard. And part of the reason why it is so hard is because the tool set that is provided today is just not very good. And as you probably all agree, starting to write something from scratch on a blank piece of paper, that's the really hard part. All the release notes tools that are out there that I've tried, they help you with the publishing to a website or widget, and that all works okay. But the hard part of getting you started, none of them did it. They basically all start you with an empty editor here. You have to come up with a title. You have to come up with the release notes. And that was just really daunting. And then that's why we thought, well, we have those Jira tickets. Why can't we use that as a starting point? And we'll get to that in a bit. But first, why should you care about release notes? I think for many people, release notes still seem like an afterthought. And you can see that the way they're written, the way where they're published. And I challenge you to think about release notes a little bit differently. Because if you think about it, they are a communication channel that you have with your customers. And it's up to you how you use that communication channel. Now, how often do you actually get to talk to your customers, like every week or every month consistently, and get a message in front of them? I think we would kill for that to do that. If you think about digital advertising, companies spend $600 billion a year on digital advertising just to talk to their customers in the first place. But then once they are customers, we spend very little money and energy on engaging them. We have the occasional newsletter, but release notes are a channel that's completely underutilized. And there's a few more concrete reasons here as well. Number one, for customer communication in particular, release notes can help you increase your conversion rate. Now, you wonder, isn't that just for existing customers that they find out what's going on? Well, yes, but also you can put your release notes on your website, let people know on a website. Early on at Atlassian, so I spent 15 years at the company, and early on, each of the product pages had a what's new section, and that's where we published all the things that we've been releasing recently. And if you think about it, every time somebody comes to your website and goes to their what's new section or sees it more prominently featured what's new, they get the feeling that this company is innovating, that the company is listening to their customers and constantly releasing new features. Yeah. And the opposite is true as well. If you can't find anything that's new and it's really hard struggle, do they actually get something out there? And we're going to see a very good example for that later. The second one is increase loyalty and retention. And this is about talking to existing customers. You want to make sure that they stay existing customers. And how do you do that? Of course, your product, hopefully that's useful to begin with, but it's also about listening to your customers and making sure that the features you develop are communicated and they find out about them, because that's part of it. You want to make sure that you get them excited about all the hard work that your engineering, your product team has been working on, that gets in front of your customers. I talked to a product manager at Canva half a year ago, and he told me that they frequently get support requests or feature requests for features that they've shipped more than a year ago. And of course, release notes is not the only solution to that or the holy grail, by no means, but it's a really, really good tool in your toolbox to get people to find out what is new in your product. And again, if you do that in an exciting way and not just kind of like a bullet list of boring points, you can get those customers really excited about those features. Put a video in, put an image in, get them really excited and turn them into advocates and champions for your product and get them to do the marketing for you. Now, the last point here is increase upsell and cross-sell opportunities. If you have other products, like at Atlassian, we had a lot of products and we did a lot of cross-selling within the products as well. And release notes is just as good of a point there to advertise the integration capabilities that you've built, advertise capabilities that are available on higher tiers. And that's just such a great channel to make people aware of those features, because most of your users, let's face it, once they bought it, how often do they go back to your website to find out about these things? Now, internal communication is the second one that's often underappreciated. Starting with informing the go-to-market teams of what's coming up, and whether it's sales or support or marketing, you want to make sure that they're all aligned. For sales, it's really important to understand what features are coming up so they can talk to their prospects about it and tell them, here, this is in the pipeline, and we can give you a heads up, make them feel special. For marketing, you want to make sure that the message is aligned, and you can do this with internal communication upfront of release notes. And then support, of course, as well. They don't want to be surprised by features that have been shipped and customers are asking them about it and they have no idea what's going on. So making sure that your stakeholders there are informed, your teams are informed. Stakeholders is the next one. The stakeholders in the company are really the ones who decide whether to invest in a project or not. You need to get their buy-in. And what better way to do than doing a little bit of internal marketing and showing them the momentum that your team has and getting them excited about the capabilities that you're building as well. And then lastly, cross-team alignment. So again, maybe you have a platform team or a team that are dependent on each other. And in that case, it's a really great way to inform other teams what's coming out in the product or what's coming out in their kind of platform that other teams can utilize. But getting to release notes directly, oftentimes they're not great. I mentioned that in the beginning, and I want to go through a few kind of reasons or things not to do in release notes. First of all, and this is the most important one, I'm going to hone in on this quite a bit, they're not discoverable. Updates are often done infrequently. People just publish a wall of text, or the content is too brief, or there was no effort put into the release notes. Like all of these things are not great for release notes. And here's a few examples. The first one is from a company that has millions of users. And when you Google for their release notes, what's new, the first link that you find is to their community. And the updates, they're written pretty nicely. They use images, they're well done. The problem is this was a major feature that they released, and 2 weeks later, they only had 85 views. Those are still like millions of users that are not aware of this feature, that haven't seen it. And they are currently looking at how do they improve that, improve the communication. So they're actively working on improving that. And again, it's like, this is the community. So you would think that's a pretty good place to talk about release notes, but it's just people don't go looking for it and don't find it there. The next one is infrequent updates. So this is actually a tool that I evaluated a couple of years ago to write our own release notes. And I was like, oh yeah, June 14 was an update, May 21. Oh, 21. So there's actually 2 years between those updates. And that was the case back then as well. I think there was a year between updates. And that was the reason why I didn't go ahead with the tool or purchasing the tool, because I knew if there was a feature that I wanted, and there were a couple, we probably would not get that anytime soon. And this comes back to the conversion rate. I didn't convert. If those release notes were better and I saw they had a lot of momentum, I probably would have just gone ahead and purchased the tool. Wall of text. This is what you see a lot in technical release notes. It's just a wall of text with a bullet list, and it's really hard to read. There's no images, nothing to stimulate you, nothing to get you excited. It's pretty good for technical audience, like if they really want to get into the nitty gritty and have the patience. But if you sometimes want to scan through, it's not great. And we'll look at ways to do that better. And then second last is too brief. If you don't give enough context, if you just have like a short summary where people might not even understand what it is, that's a problem too. And even worse, you miss out on an opportunity to engage your users. You miss out on an opportunity to get them really excited about what you're delivering here. So take that into account. And this is basically the same, like no effort. And you see that a lot in the ecosystem, putting a Jira issues macro onto a page. So if nobody spends time writing their release notes, why, or if you don't spend time writing your release notes, why should anyone spend time reading them? Now let's have a look what great looks like. First of all, this is Sketch, and their design app for the Mac, and they do a great job with like big images, videos that really explain the features when something is new, a short description of it, and then a link to the docs. And that's a good balance as well. So you don't want to get too detailed in your release notes, but if you can link to documentation or more detailed information, that's a really, really good way to do it and get people excited. And for people who care more about this feature, they can then go and find out more. So that's a great example on how to do it. So images, videos, just an image is worth 1,000 words. User-centric, and the Microsoft Teams team does a great job. Slack I should mention as well. I don't have them included because they're always included. They have really funny release notes. But Microsoft Teams does a great job, even just describing the headline. If you read this headline, instead of saying screen share Zoom as a feature name, they say zoom in and out of screen share during a Teams meeting. They describe what the user wants to do. It's super user-centric. Again, big images that can emphasize it, or videos. That's a great way to share, to write user release notes, user-focused release notes. And if you have a lot of release notes, you can take a leaf out of Spotify's book here. So they have a ton of filters available. They release every day. So, but if you are only interested in billing or checkout or waiting for a feature for mobile, then you can filter by those categories and just get the features that are available for that category. Just a great way to organize the release notes. Don't just organize them by feature, bug fix. That's what you typically see, but that's probably they have that here as well, feature improvement. But the more important part actually is the actual categories for the product. And engaging is the next one. So release notes are not just for things that you released. It's also about things that you might want to release. So in this case, Raycast is an OS X app that I love, and they do a great job getting you excited about what's coming up. So in this case, they have new AI features coming up in beta, and they encourage people to sign up for the wait list in their release notes and watch that video again to get them excited. So think about other things that you want to communicate and reach customers with, and you can put that into release notes as well, not just like a bullet list of what's been done. And then lastly, and this is the big point, so I'm going to have a few examples here, discoverable. We already learned putting it just in the community, maybe even just in documentation, might not be enough for people to discover it. How often do people go and read the documentation? There's not very often, let's face it. So you should probably put them somewhere more prominent. And this is back to Sketch, a really prominent example of what they do. If you go to their website and click on product, you have the different product areas, but you also have a pretty big what's new section on the right-hand side that shows a summary of the headlines of the last kind of 4 entries in that changelog. And that's a great way to draw attention to that and show all updates. Probably one of the most prominent examples that I've seen on the website. And it's just fantastic to show momentum. And that's what they need to do in their fight against Figma. They need to show momentum and get people excited about things. So here's the highlight for that. And then we've been working with a number of Atlassian ecosystem customers that we're super excited about and getting their release notes seen more. The first one is Mantra, and they provide an intranet for Confluence. It's a beautiful app, but again, like you want to make sure that the release notes or that people find out about new things. So in order to tackle this, they embedded a widget that we provide. And when you click on the news in app, you get the news pop up. And I think, in fact, every time they publish something, this automatically pops up for the users. They have it configured that way. So again, in-app is probably the best way to reach your users, because you reach not only the people that have signed up for your service where you might have the email address, but you really can reach all the end users. And that's just really, really powerful. Such an underused communication channel. And the same is true for Checkout. So Checkout is an all-in-one catalog and procurement asset manager for service management. And they also struggled getting customers to find out about new products. So they put a news link into the product as well. And instead of the pop-up, they chose to basically implement a whole page with news. So they have a news timeline here that shows all the changes. And again, they use images and videos in order to demonstrate what's been updated in the product. So again, yeah, check out. They're doing a great job in keeping the customers informed. And basically, that's what our mission was, to make it really simple for people to create those release notes and to update them, create them, update, and share them with your customers. And I'll give you. This is a short overview of the product, and I'll give you an actual demo right after. But the first thing that we want to do is, of course, figuring out what has been released. And we have two main ways we can do this. First, by fixed version, where you can pick a version of all the features that are coming up. Or in this case, and this is what I use the most because we continuously deploy things. In this case, we can include everything that's been done since the last announcement. And that's just like a really neat filter, or in the last week or in the last month, you can pick this. And then you have options to filter it further. And I'll give you a demonstration of what that looks like later on as well. But this will basically give you the tickets, and we see them in a second. And then you come to this editor. And again, it's like a blank page right now, but it won't stay blank for long. In the editor, you have all the regular tools, headings, images, bullet lists, everything that you would expect. But then what you have on the side is the issue sidebar. And that's all the issues that we just set up or filtered or queried for in a previous step. And so you can get an overview, and maybe you want to include all of them. Maybe you decide not to include, but it's this staging area is what we call it. And on the staging area, now you have the tickets. So how do you get them into the release notes? You basically select the ticket, and there's going to be a generate link that's at the bottom. It actually moved to the top. We'll see that in demo. And then you simply click generate button, and it will create the release notes for this item based on the title and the description of the ticket. And then once that's done, you will see the ticket update. Like, you get a small overview there of the title and what's been written. And all you need to do is then simply drag and drop the ticket into the content area. And then that's basically how you build your release notes. And that's often a great start. Sometimes it's enough. And you can just go on. For bug fixes, I hardly have to fix it because it's just one sentence. For epics, you might want to spend a little bit more time refining it and making sure the message really hits home. But it's at a minimum, it's a really good start, and it saves a ton of time. And then you want to go and add a title. You might want to add some images as well. And that's basically how you build your release notes. And the last step is then to publish. And you can publish to a Confluence, we'll see that in a second, the announcement page and the embeddable widget, both of which we've seen just previously. But with that said, I'm going to jump into a demo now. Okay, so this is our stream. So in Jira, you can have a release note stream, is basically what we call it, for every project. And the great thing that it's in Jira is, first of all, you don't have to log into another tool. It tightly integrates with Jira. The user management permissions are all the same. So everyone with access to the project has access to release notes here. So that's all great. And then when somebody comes to the release notes, it's in the sidebar here on the left. You will see basically the same release notes stream already in the Jira project. So again, for someone who is interested in what a particular project or team is working on, they can just go to their Jira project and see it right there as well. So in order to create a new one, there's a create post button up here. And we're basically just going to do what we just looked at, done since the last announcement. I can make this maybe a little bit bigger. Great. And since the last announcement, and I'll add a couple other filters as well afterwards. So at the moment, we just want to get all the tickets that have been done since. And you can see on the right-hand side, we get a lot of, there's like some tasks, some stories, and some bug fixes. So let's refine this further with the filter again and add a label. My team highlighted everything that should be public as public that we should release, and then you basically get all the other tickets. So that's a good way to earmark tickets along the way and decide which ones are worth talking about and which ones are not, so you don't have to do that work at the time when you actually write the release notes. Okay, so let's do the JiraCon23 headline here, and we'll start with our epic. We can have a look at the epic. If you click on it, you see the epic actually has a bit more context, some functional requirements, non-functional requirements, and interface constraints. So we want to create release notes from that now. So we click on the ticket, hit generate in the top right, and then you will see it gets generated here. And it takes a couple seconds. There was a lot of content in there. And it's done. So with like hitting space, you actually can get a preview of what that looks like. But we're just gonna drag and drop it in here. And that's basically it. To facilitate collaborative work, users can now share individual tasks with your team members or contacts, and so on and so on. And then like option to share tasks, so they take instructions from what we had spec'd out as well and turn it into a release note or a description of how you should use it. So that's just super, super useful. Then what you can do, obviously, is you can take an image. Let's see if we have an image here. Probably just take an image here. You can put that in there. You can paste YouTube links, simply copy and paste the YouTube link, and it will embed the video. And then typically what I do, I add another heading here and say improvements. And then you write a bullet list, so I can highlight these, generate them, and I can like move on as well. Say, okay, I want to have improvements and I want to have bug fixes as well. Also with the bullet list, which is quite neat, if I now drag all those tickets, the 3 cards, onto the bullet list, it will actually format them as a bullet, which saves me a ton of time. And I can do the same with the security issues and the bug fix as well. I can select them all at once, generate the description, and then we'll see what happens there. And to give you an idea, for the security issue, for example, I'm not sure how much context is. There was no description. There was only vulnerability in the authentication code, and the AI copywriter tries to guess like what's the best here. We haven't resolved the vulnerability in the authentication code that could potentially be exploited by characters. So it just makes like something up, but it's reasonable. It's pretty good. And you can see this if you have the custom fields configured, you can see it to generate the description on the ticket itself as well. Then we just again pull them in, and that's it. And this can be configured. You can configure how much content you want to create. I'll show you that in a second. Again, cover image, you can create a cover image. Do we have something here? Let's just use that image what we had earlier. Mantra. Categories, as I said earlier. So this is, let's say this is a web thing. Versions as well that get added automatically. And then we publish. Now, I mentioned this, at the moment we have 3 channels to publish in, and we sharing to Slack today as well. In this case, you can see Confluence. This will publish into the playground space, into the JiraCon23 post. And we keep them all on. I'll see what that looks like in a second. I'll show you what that looks like. And then all we need to do is basically hit publish, and that's it. That's how we create our posts. And it takes a moment. And then here we have our post. So let's first have a look into the settings. So I mentioned the announcement page and the widget. So all the channels are set up here. So for Confluence, you can see what space you publish in and what the parent page is that we publish under. The announcement page is what we've configured. And this is basically a preview. You can see what it looks like on mobile, what it looks like on desktop. You can change the colors to match your theme in here as well. You can say release notes, change the title. So it's very customizable. You save it, and all you need to do is install it with like two tags really, the script tag and another tag in a page. We got a short demo here on the side. Actually, I need to copy it. So if we actually take this script tag and the other tag, and then put it into code, just to give you an idea, this is like a blank code widget. So this is the script, and the script tag here. Save this. And this is basically how easy it is to include it into a website or into your app. It already shows there. So it's really only those two tags that you need. Yeah, the same is true for the widget. And you have more customization capabilities as well for the header. So you can change the colors here as you want, which is quite convenient. And then the last thing that is worth showing is the customizability of the content that gets generated. So in the AI setting, you have the ability to change the base prompt. So basically instructions that are used for all the tickets, for everything that's been generated. There's some things that we have there by default, remove details not relevant for release announcement, for example. But if you want to write them in a specific tone or voice, you can instruct it to do that here. But even better is that you can have issue-specific instructions. For example, for epics, we have a custom prompt. At the moment, it's like write one paragraph in a playful tone, for example. We have some presets there as well. For bug fixes, we have one sentence professional. For security, a short description technical. You don't want security issues in a playful tone, most likely. So it's a really good way to get ahead and change for the issues, like what they should sound like and how long the description should be. And if you have any specific format in your tickets as well, if you can tell AI what it should do with the format, that helps as well. That just gives you much better results. So this gives you a lot of flexibility in what's generated. It's not just a black box there. But yeah, let's quickly have a look at where we publish it. We already saw we published it to the website. I show you that, and now let's take a look at Confluence. So this is let me get to the playground. Okay, so here are the release notes and JiraCon23. So that's the post, and you see just like before, we have the header image there. We got the image that we included here, and then the improvements and bug fixes. And the great thing is sharing Confluence, people can now go and comment on it, and you can collaborate on it and get feedback from your users or from your stakeholders or the marketing team, and yeah, basically work together on like what's been worked on there. And if you make updates, so updates only sync in one way. So if you change the text here, it doesn't actually change the release notes. But if you make a change in the release notes and you publish it again, then the Confluence page will be updated as well. And this also integrates with other tools. So we have like refined here. There's a scroll viewport for a lot of people that use the documentation. Again, like you can put them in the documentation. Ideally, you put them on the website as well. But yeah, there's a number of different ways to integrate your release notes. And I think Anything I'm missing? Oh, the last piece. Yeah. So one more thing. If you write your release notes, obviously that doesn't always happen at once. It's pretty fast to do, so that's nice. But one thing we do is we keep track of what has been entered already. So let me remove a bullet list here, bullet item. So you can see there on the right-hand side, this actually search functionality now is not grayed out anymore. And the same, you can click on those tickets to see which text is related to a particular ticket. And even if you change the text completely, some problem, you still remain connected to that. Like, of course, if you completely delete it, and then it's going to be gone, but it tries to keep track of the updates here, which makes it easier to go back and look at what has already been written about. So that's a great feature as well. And it also means that for internal release notes, one thing we have planned is to link more of the ticket context into the release notes. So one unpopular request was a link for each of those updates to the actual Jira ticket, and that's just super handy for people to find out more. And that's coming on our roadmap. And with that, that's pretty much it. Again, like you can update is pretty easy as well. I mentioned it earlier, so let's just do that real quick. Confluence always takes a while to validate that the page is there. Then we can publish it. And now this has been updated in Confluence and on that page as well that we just saw. Let's go back here to this page, reload this one. You can see that some problem, this has been updated so super fast to update it. Yeah, and with that concludes my presentation and my demo, and we can move into Q&A. Actually, I think, just let me jump back to the presentation. If you have any more questions, so as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm going to fly out to Fiji in like about an hour. So I won't be able to stick around to the booth or have chats right after. But if you want to reach me, you can contact me at jens@release.so or just look me up on LinkedIn, Jens Schumacher, and then I'm more than happy to follow up with a call or just email conversation to answer any questions. But we have, I think, plenty of time to jump into Q&A as well now. Thank you for joining the session. Really appreciate it. All right, so I think we're just gonna go through Q&A now. The base instructions that are by issue type, can you define by any other issue field, such as priority or similar? Not yet, but that's something that we are considering. So at the moment, we only consider the title and the description, but we're looking at making other issue fields available as well. We got to figure out how we do this. Are we going into custom fields or just support the standard fields right now? But for example, one thing that people already do is add documentation as well. Let me see if I can actually jump to that. And you can do this right now if you have the documentation mentioned in the Jira description. The AI does a pretty good job at pulling that out and putting a link to the documentation. Say, hey, read more here for the documentation. So that's good. But there's certainly other fields that we might want to add where the AI can work with those fields as well. Yeah, but that's not done yet, but shouldn't be too hard. Second question, can we use this tool to build canned answers for JSM? You probably, I think you could, if you customize the base prompt, you should be able to do this. Give it a try and let us know how it's going. There's some like other under the hood instructions that are at the moment tailored a little bit around the use case for release notes, but you should be able to override them with the base prompt. And if that's not working, we plan to be able to override the whole thing. So you can use it for much more use cases than just for release notes. In fact, we have a couple of use cases already in mind that we want to support. So, and in particular, service management is an area as well for support agents as well to give summaries of what the problems were to the product teams. That's a great use case, and that's probably a slightly different tone and interpretation of the tickets than you would have with release notes. The next question here, can we use this tool to build, oh no, that was the answer there. The first one I missed. What kind of support do you guys provide for your product? Just the standard support. I think we do say like 5 days, like business hour support, but yeah, usually we are awake earlier like now or available on weekends as well. We just can't always guarantee it, but it's, yeah, the standard support. For released, we also just joined the bug bounty program, and we are about to join Cloud Fortified as well. So that should be done in the next few weeks. We should get that certification too. And checking the chat and see if there's anything else. Thank you. Any other questions that I can help you answer? There was a good comment around an opportunity to talk about big problems fixed. That's a good one. Like not just talking about features, but also like a big bug that has been fixed rather than just a one-line update. And yeah, that's a good suggestion. I like that. Yeah, release notes should be improved. Anything else I can answer? I should have set up a post and to see how many people write release notes here, but that's good. Anything else you want me to demo or see? Any last questions? Yeah, I don't see anything coming in. Thank you. Yeah, thanks everyone for attending. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the session. And yeah, I think we can conclude it here. Again, if you have, if you have any last questions, here's my email address again, my LinkedIn. Please follow up. Would love to hear from you. And yeah, see if you have any other requirements. Just send us a note. And yeah, looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.